Here's an idea. Your language is your homeland. Also, bet you can't see me. This episode of Idea Channel is brought to you by Dropbox. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, which is the 22nd entry into the Metal Gear series of action-adventure stealth games created by famed video game skipper Hideo Kojima and published by Konami, begins with this epigraph. "It is no nation we inhabit, but a language. Make no mistake, our native tongue is our true fatherland." This quote is taken from Anathemas and Admirations by the Romanian-born philosopher Emil Cioran, who's best known for his work written not in Romanian, but in French. It's more commonly translated into English as, "One does not inhabit a country, one inhabits a language. That is our country, our fatherland, and no other." What's funny and weird and maybe kind of perfect is that Metal Gear Solid 5 doesn't take this quote out of context. It has no context. Not really. It comes in a long list of unconnected theses. The one before it reads, "Immense supernatural aridity, as if I were beginning a second existence on another planet where speech is unknown in a universe refractory to language and incapable of creating such a thing for itself." Inconceivable! We may be led very rightly to ask what Cioran is getting at exactly. And weirdly, I think Metal Gear Solid 5 sorta answers that question. But before the theory, let's begin with a bit of Big Boss background. If you're already familiar with Metal Gear Solid 5, you can click here to skip ahead, but if not, be forewarned, spoilers ahead. So, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is about punished Venom Snake's quest for revenge after the destruction of his former mercenary organization MSF and its headquarters, the Mother Base, at the end of Metal Gear Solid 5: Ground Zeroes. In the process of said destruction, Snake ends up in a 9-year coma, and the Phantom Pain begins with him waking up. Eventually, Snake learns that his longtime enemy, a man both with and named Skullface, who commands the CIA covert unit turned renegade paramilitary organization XOF, has developed a bioterrorism plot to kill everyone who speaks English. Skullface was snatched from his home as a child, but says it wasn't until he was forced to abandon his native tongue of Hungarian that he was truly torn from his elders. English is the language of captors and is itself parasitic in more ways than one. Destroy it, he suggests, and chaos would ensue. That chaos in his mind would ultimately return cultures and people corrupted by the global lingua franca of English to their former integrity, while also ushering in a world united by a different common tongue: nuclear weapons. Skullface, not an okay guy, also kind of makes me wonder what Kojima thinks about English. How would he do this, you may ask? Well, Code Talker, an old Navajo parasitologist, discovered a vocal cord parasite on the remains of a dead sharpshooter, don't ask, which is mutated into 2 strains. One infects people via a specific language and kills them if they speak it, how convenient, and another infects people via a specific language and gives them crazy super fast zombie superpowers, which sometimes require that they wear basically no clothing, how even double convenienter. I'm gonna go sit down now. So, now that the background's covered, why would Skullface do this? Create and release a language parasite? To answer that, we're gonna start with another quote about language from scholar of Yiddish Max Weinreich, who popularized the idea that a language is a dialect with an army and a navy, which compresses into a very small space the relationship between what one speaks or understands and where, geographically, politically, and culturally, they are from. We're gonna talk about those 3 things, location, politics, and mode of thought, as they relate to the distinction between language and dialect in order, starting in Northern Europe. It could be argued that Danish and Norwegian, given their similarities, are really dialects of the same language and not 2 distinct languages, but Norway and Denmark both have states, borders, and armies. So this makes it much easier to see theirs as separate languages, though their vocab and syntax resembles those of 2 dialects within the same language. On the other hand, Wenjanese, a dialect of Wu Chinese nicknamed the Devil's Language because of its notorious difficulty, isn't considered its own language, though yes, it is nicknamed one, even though it's so different that most Chinese can't speak or read it. The Wenzhou people are not of sufficient political power to warrant a state apparatus, so what they speak is a dialect, even though its individuality means it resembles a language. This means that we can read Metal Gear Solid's epigraph differently based upon how we consider language to indicate someone's linguistic origin. Is it how they communicate, the words that come out of their mouth, or where geographically they live, that determines their true linguistic fatherland? On the one hand, how we speak with one another can establish or advertise a powerful sense of belonging, one that complements or transcends the sense of belonging based on whatever border we're enclosed by. A dialect can be our true fatherland, distinct from the larger linguistic, political, geographical situation that the speaker lives within. That stuff becomes context, but not necessarily country. But on the other hand, Norwegian, Danish, Chinese, and English are all languages with countless diverse dialects. Speakers of those dialects can perhaps unwillingly be conscripted into whatever ideals those languages represent. Unique dialects don't indicate any particularly distinct home country from this perspective, and all people who live under the national banner of a particular language become homogenized, though they may not easily understand one another. So then, which is it? Is one's fatherland the people with whom they communicate the best, or the political and social banner under which they live? Well, Skullface, I think, has an idea. Language to him is a political entity. English specifically signifies a group of people who have infected the world, unmoored it from tradition. He wants to kill everyone who speaks English, and I think he means English, the language with an army of disparate speakers, and not English, the collection of dialects spoken by people who understand one another. His concern isn't the sound of English or even the specific people who speak it, but its political associations. It's not an ethnic cleanser, he says, it's a liberator. Whoever speaks English, Skullface says, is afflicted. Skullface's theory hinges on something known as linguistic determinism, that the language one speaks affects how they view the world. Each particular language, this theory goes, organizes the perceptions of its speakers. Essentially, we can't fully experience what we can't properly formulate with language. And there is some scientific backing to this, which you can check out here, boop, if you want. In Metal Gear Solid 5, Skullface is a die-hard, literally, linguistic determinist. He'd say that language afflicts its speakers with perceptions, politics, ideologies, and outlooks. Of even himself, he says, language is peculiar. With each change, I changed too. My thoughts, my personality, how I saw right and wrong. But remember, Skullface is a man with a skull for a face. Trope numero uno for, he's a bad guy.
I am not nice.
In real life, it's not so black and white. Speakers of two different languages aren't necessarily prone to see right and wrong differently, though they may experience colors, groups, numbers, relationships, or even their own feelings differently. It's sort of like how in English we don't have an exact analog for schadenfreude, the kind of glee that you feel seeing someone else totally bite it. But at least when I first learned it, I was like, oh, whoa. I didn't know that there was a word for this feeling. It was like a spotlight shining on a dark place in my own brain, or possibly a virus infecting it. It's possible that Skullface happens to be a fan of beat novelist and renowned substance abuser William S. Burroughs, who in his 1970 essay Electronic Revolution famously declares, language is a virus. He means it pretty literally. He says, this is not an allegorical comparison. Western languages are, in point of fact, actual virus mechanisms. The language virus, he says, has infected humanity for its own survival, but there are side effects, an unconscious response to linguistic cues. Burroughs focuses on highly conspiratorial stuff, like inciting riots, but some of it weirdly connects to Skullface and linguistic determinism. Language, each person's own language, in some way infects the culture and perceptions of the people who speak it. It structures our understanding of and reactions to the world in ways beyond our immediate grasp. Reality, Burroughs says, is produced by the language virus inside the host. To Skullface, the subjective reality produced by English is a sickness, awful, and perhaps more virulent than other languages, worthy of destruction. Skullface is also a supervillain. However, maybe one half of Skullface's gripes is sorta on point. There are downsides to global cultural homogenization, often marked by the dominance of one particular language, but responsibility for those things can't be laid at the feet of one set of speakers. Skullface says English is sucking minds dry, but really its modern global spread is a symptom, not the sickness itself. In both the game and our real, actual world, markets, politics, media, and culture are all implicated as well. Either way, the ability of language to structure different subjectivities based on its strengths and shortcomings is an amazing and eminently celebratable feature of both communication and the human brain. Differing subjectivities are the bread and butter of human experience. Philosopher of cultural anthropology Dorothy Lee, writing about differing languages describing reality, said translating between languages, and therefore realities, quote, may even eventually lead us to aspects of reality from which our own code excludes us. The flip side of this is that the ability for language to structure subjectivities which feel so foreign, to support and even help construct experiences of the world which are so unfamiliar, so alien to one's own, is exactly what can make some group of people seem so other. If you're like Dorothy Lee, you may see these rifts as possibilities and perspectives, which as a sum total could contribute to some greater understanding of the world, more so than one language or one perspective ever could on its own. However, if you're like Skullface, you may see the whole arrangement as dangerous and potentially dehumanizing, at which point you may aim to wage nuclear war. Based upon what I know of you, though, I'm guessing that you're more like the former, more like Dorothy Lee. I guess maybe I'm hoping that you're more like the former, like Dorothy Lee. Please don't wage nuclear war, is what I'm saying. What do you guys think? Is language a virus? Or in what way do you think the language you speak is your homeland? Let us know in the comments, and I will respond to some of them in next week's comment response video. In this week's comment response video, we talk about your thoughts regarding whether or not it's possible that Ron is Dumbledore, and if J.K. Rowling's thoughts on the matter at all. If you want to watch that, you can click here or find a link in the doobly-doo. And hey, before we get any further, it's nice to be back. It's good to see everybody. I mean, I can't actually see you, I'm not spying on you, but it's nice to be back. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, or I guess Thursday, as the case may be. Oh, and also in the comment response video, we talk a little bit about your thoughts regarding Christmas creep. That's also in there, just a couple of those. That comment section was really good, by the way. Very interesting, I learned a lot. This week's tweet of the week comes from Kyle Wyatt, who points us towards an errant signal video, which is just good like they always are. Man, I'd love Errant Signal's video so much about Fallout 4 and its relationship to role-playing. It is a great watch. Not surprised. Chris, you do such good stuff. This week's episode of Idea Channel was sponsored by Dropbox. Whether you're designing, presenting, writing, or building, Dropbox makes it easy to work together on any file, because if you can work with anyone, anywhere, any way you want, the world will surely be full of more interesting things. Dropbox, all yours. We have a Facebook, an IRC, and a subreddit, links in the doobly-doo, and of course, this episode would not have been possible without the hard work of these fine, solid, liquid, venomous, punished snakes. I mean, they're people, but you get what I'm saying.